Thank you.
All right. Hello, everybody. Thank you for your attention. Well, welcome to Heriot-Watt University for this evening's event, which is about one of our ongoing research projects that we have here at the university. It's called Justisigns, as you can see. Now, this evening, the aim is really to inform you about the project, where the project came from, where it starts, who's involved, what the aims of the project are, what the hopes of the project are in terms of information dissemination, what policies we hope to change, what practice we hope to influence, all those sorts of things. And this evening we'll be going through all of those aspects of the project. In just a minute, I'm going to hand over to my colleagues who will present this evening. But they've asked me just to make a couple of opening remarks about my own involvement in this area, courts and legal interpreting and access to for sign language users. Now, the reason that they asked me to do this is I started working in this area some years ago. I don't know if any of you here remember, but before we had a world without internet, without mobile phones, if you think that far back, I'm sure you can remember. I distinctly remember one of my very first research jobs in 1990 something or other. Anyway, the early 1990s. I was involved in a project that was concerned with courts interpreting. And at the time I was working at Dublin University, some other country, some far away from here. But what was interesting is that the project did have a link with what was going on in Scotland. Because in the 90s, Scotland was actually ahead of the rest of the UK in that courts already allowed the filming of interpreters for research and analysis reasons. In England, this simply wasn't allowed to happen. There was a blanket ban. There was no way that court proceedings were going to be filmed. But the Scottish authorities could see the value in researching what was going on in courtrooms and collecting evidence so that they could improve practice and so on and so forth. So Scotland was to be commended for being ahead of the game in terms of the rest of the UK at that time. So I started working on this research project with my colleagues from Dublin University. And really the idea of that project came from this book, The Bilingual Courtroom. Which is an excellent book. Not about sign language interpreters in particular, but in fact about Spanish English interpreters working in American courtrooms. And it demonstrated a clear understanding of how to improve interpreting practice and interpreting services. It looked at what was going on underneath the surface. Below this apparently straightforward process of interpreting that was going on. So it did look at all the, if you like, everything that was unseen and unheard. So this book was won a prize back in 1991. And it won the Best Applied Linguistics book of that year. So we thought, well, why don't we borrow some of those ideas, transfer them first of all to England, and to have a research project looking at sign language interpreters along the same set of principles with a similar focus as to the American research that had gone before. So in the early 1990s, I found myself sitting in the public gallery of the Old Bailey for a stint of 6 weeks. I was observing interpreters working in a trial. Simon was working in court proceedings. And the trial was a murder trial, so it was serious, someone had been killed. And in the observations and the collection of data and evidence over those 6 weeks, I mean, this trial, in fact, ended up being a mistrial. It wasn't a successful trial, even though it had been running for 6 weeks and there had been a team of interpreters working very hard. The trial didn't work because of weaknesses within the interpreting process and the court not being satisfied. So this is taxpayers' money, something in the region of £1 million worth at that time to fund a 6-week trial that ended in disaster. So a very expensive lesson to be learned. So the research team really thought, well, we've got to try and collect evidence to make sure that this sort of occurrence doesn't keep happening again in the future. We often found that similar problems kept recurring again and again throughout the legal system. And if you look at this, I mean, this report highlighted some of the same issues. This is the British Deaf Association in 1979. So they had a communications project about DSL, trying to identify the problems that occur within legal interpreting to make sure that they get sorted out and that deaf people have good access to the justice system. So this effort, this area of work has been going on for many, many years, and many of the issues and problems and challenges unfortunately seem to linger across the decades. Now, our project at Durham University eventually produced this book, Equality Before the Law. The book was published in 1997, which is almost 20 years ago, where we are now. And yet again, here we are. Some of the same old problems still lingering in the system. So, this Justisigns project is trying to think again about taking the best ideas, the best practice, and sharing this knowledge and this information and these good practice guidelines to make sure that some of these old problems do finally get resolved in future years. So, I'd like to introduce my colleagues. They'll explain, as I said, where the project came from, what it's doing, and what it aims to do. So I'll pass over to Jemina and Robert now.
Thank you, Dean. Some of you might be wondering, who is this person? He hasn't introduced himself. This is Professor Graham Turner. And some of you will know from Heriot-Watt, but maybe people on the live stream weren't familiar with him. And his sign was Graham. And as he said, he's been involved with contemporary research for many years now, and especially in the domain of legal interpreting. And this project, Justisigns project, that we'll be talking about tonight, really is a second iteration. And there was another project that Graham was involved in here at Heriot-Watt. It was called Medisigns. It's a previous project, similar group of participants, and it was led by Interesource group. We're actually based in Ireland, and they were the project managers who led that project. So a very similar project, but it looked at medical interpreting with sign language users, whereas this project focuses on legal settings and sign language interpreting within legal settings. So myself and Rob Skinner are both leading on this project for Heriot-Watt. My name is Jemina, Napier. And we'll both be presenting different slides throughout the night to tell you more about the project, what the goals are, what the project involves, what we've achieved so far and what our plans for the future are. And then at the end, we'd like to open up the floor to questions and comments from yourselves, the audience. We're really keen to hear your feedback, both on our presentation, what we've talked about, if it's created any thoughts from you, if there's things that you feel we might have missed, that there's other good practice going on that we've not covered. We'd really appreciate you sharing any of that knowledge with us. And it's all going to be really valuable for this project. We don't want to just keep going on blindly when there could be other good stuff. Later on you say, oh, did you know this? There's nothing. So we'd like to have that feedback if possible. We have interpreters, practitioners here, we have interpreting students, we have representatives from the police and the prison service, we have representatives of courts, so we have a lot of different stakeholders present tonight and a range of perspectives in the room. So I really appreciate all of you giving up your time to come along tonight. Now before I start the presentation proper, you'll see we're all referring to this laptop at the front of the screen. Tonight is actually being live streamed over the internet. So this event is being streamed live over the internet. The programme also records the presentation so that it will be available online through our website. So just to make people aware, and if you forget what we've said or there was a point you want to go back to, that recording will be available for you to access. And you can also pass this on to friends and colleagues who may be interested, who maybe were not able to make tonight, then don't worry, they haven't missed it. You can still watch it again. But my questions at the end, when we open up for the audience, it means if you don't want to be on live stream, then please let us know, and then we can relay your questions so that you're not on the live stream. But for everyone else, if you have a question or a comment, we'd like to ask you to come up to the front to make that comment. Thank you. Now, let me tell you more about the project itself. We were funded from the EU Lifelong Learning Programme. The European Commission funded this programme. And the aim of that really was to create training materials and resources that could be used within training. You know, as they say, projects in lifelong learning that would be available to stakeholders. So we're not the only ones that are involved. We work with a number of partners. You see their logos along the bottom of the screen. So we work with University in Ireland, University in Switzerland. So Ireland, Switzerland, Switzerland here, and Belgium. I'm not going to spell every single one of these, so that's the logo for Leuven in Belgium. And efsli, the European Forum of Sign Language Interpreters. And you see here also EULITA. That's the European Legal Interpreting and Translators Association. That covers spoken and sign language interpreting, but they specialise in legal settings. So these are all our partners that are working with us within this project, and it's led, as I mentioned, by the Interesource group in Ireland. They're the coordinators of the project. So it actually started in December 2013, and you said, oh, December 2013, that's a while ago. We're nearly the 2-year mark. But the beginning of the project was really about scoping and feasibility. So the project, we introduced that one January of this year. So the first year of the project really was scoping the area, putting things together to make sure that we were progressing in the right way. So looking at what training and learning was already had been researched, what was already available, and you know, things like Vinci research, things that happened 20 years ago, were they still relevant, were they still the same, what were the issues? So we did a literature research and looked at previous projects rather than reinventing them. So the first year of the project was a lot of background research. Then as Rob said, he started in January, so look at the more practical aspects of creating the training materials for this next year. And the project's aim to finish by May next year, May 2016. Now, one of the goals of the project was to influence the European Union policies. Some of you may be aware that European directive exists, so whether it's within police or court or any form of legal interpreting across Europe, people have the right to have an interpreter in your own language. So you don't have to use the language of that country, majority language. So whether it's spoken or sign language, people have a right to interpret access proceedings in their first language. And for people who are victims within the legal settings, they have specific rights at EU level, and there are directives that say it's important that they have interpreters if they're able to exercise their rights for interpreters. And also to provide with an interpreter that matches their needs, that's appropriate, qualified, has had training and experience, and matches the appropriate criteria to interpret within those settings. So, the need for these criteria was raised in various projects 20 years ago, so now these criteria and directives do exist at European level, but we wanted to increase them more. So as you can see, really the goal of Justisigns we really wanted to encourage access, protect people who are sign language users, and to give them access to legal settings, whether that be police, court, or prison settings. Our project doesn't only focus on the UK, we are Europe-wide. As you've seen, we've got partners in Ireland, Switzerland, and Belgium. But our part of the project was to create resources that could be accessible for anyone within any of the partner countries, that they could be adapted to their own needs within their countries. So it was to create adaptable and flexible resources that would be useful Europe-wide. I'm just reading this last point here. As you see, the training materials wanted to be used within perhaps a university setting that could be used to train interpreters on the course, but it could also be used as CPD, perhaps continuing professional development for qualified interpreters, practitioners who really wanted to work in the legal setting area. So one of our first group meetings where we discussed this, we thought, okay, as Heriot-Watt will focus on police settings. And as Graham mentioned with his project, there's been a lot of research in courtroom interpreting, and there's been a body of research that's exists there. There's less work on police settings, and it's quite rare to find specific research on police interpreting. But you can understand, that the police being the first stage, if there's problems at that stage of interpreting, then that can affect courtroom, custody, and it might not even be victims of crime, it could be someone who is a witness to a crime. So your evidence as a witness to that crime is vital, and that all comes from that first police interview. So the importance of good quality interpreting in that police setting was vital, and that's what we wanted to focus on. So part of the project is to develop resources, and we see in the PowerPoint here something listed such as posters. We wanted to have posters that could be sent out to the deaf community and also put up within police stations so they'd be visible to people coming in. 10 tips on how to communicate with a deaf person. So be able to communicate through gesture, then with a qualified interpreter, and also 10 tips on the poster. It's also about creating online resources, so that the information can be accessed, perhaps a course or a downloaded information on a webinar, and it can be used for police, legal representatives, interpreters in their community. We've also said here that we create toolkits, and I want to say course because today what we say cohort, and a course cohort, so a course for all target groups. It could be legal information for interpreters, or information about the deaf community for police officers, and sharing information between all stakeholder groups. So that's something we're working on, is developing these resources. Now, the project partners have had a number of events over the course of the year. You'll see some of these examples tonight is one of those. The same thing is happening in Switzerland and Ireland. They've had community events where community have invited in and information was shared about the project. So that's happened in these other countries as well. And what started in Ireland is in partnership with the Rape Crisis Centre. And they provided training. That's ongoing at the moment. As well as Belgium. They have a mock court session, a mock court session. They have interpreters practicing, and they're working on to get interpreters the experience of working in a courtroom as part of their training. And now I'll pass over to Rob.
Okay, hi there. Thank you, Jemina. You really see me okay? Terrific. I'm better here for the live streaming. Thanks. Okay, so in working in this project here at Heriot-Watt, we have a very rich access to resources. There's people who have got experience working on previous projects, and we put a couple up here on this slide. There's one called IMPLI, I-M-P-L-I, and that's a good example. We also have been working in collaboration with BDA Scotland as well to help us really analyze the data. And as Graham has mentioned before, in the research project, Equality Before the Law, that's obviously in itself a wonderful resource that feeds into this project. So wanting to create teaching resources and other valuable information to disseminate, working here at Heriot-Watt gives us the richest environment for bringing all those resources together. Now, this isn't just information gathered here in Scotland, it's Europe-wide, so that we can hopefully create resources that are appropriate to the whole of Europe, but then adaptable to each national country environment. Now, when I joined projects in January, I was given quite a challenge to achieve the 4 points we've got up here on this slide in terms of our research phase. And we'll go into some of these a little bit more in depth now. So the first part was the literature review. Oh, and I'm actually now going to feedback to Jemina a little bit about the Justisigns survey, because she knows about how that online survey was constructed.
I'll just tell you a little bit about our literature review, just before we jump on. So the first stage was to survey the literature in this area. So that's where we're looking at previous research and work that's been done until now within this area. So we didn't just look at sign language interpreting, we also looked at spoken language interpreting. And it's important, as Graham said, that first project, Equality in the Law, really was born from the bilingual courtroom that Bert Sellison did in America. So it's being able to look at very similar research and see how that might apply or might be different for sign language interpreters. So we collected all the different types of published research, but specific to police interpreting. So let's see what's been on before and to help us plan the future. Part of the funding from the Commission was also that we create an online survey throughout Europe to see what really the status is at the moment, so what the status quo is, where legal interpreting is, and for sign language interpreters, what provisions like, what are qualifications that people are required to have, who pays for the interpreter, all these sorts of things were included in the survey. We then wanted to deepen our research focus and look at more specific examples to the Scottish context and the UK context. We wanted to speak to deaf people who'd had experience in legal settings and also interpreters who are practicing in these areas, how they felt about working in that area and what they felt the needs were. So we felt that was really important as well, not just to have a survey, but to conduct focus groups or interviews and to get that more rich data from participants. And I'll tell you more about the results of those in the analysis, which a couple of really important things came up from the focus groups. And we have the analysis of the police interview footage that I'll talk to you more about. So for this part of the survey, we worked with our partners in Switzerland to create a survey, online survey that was sent out to deaf associations across Europe, interpreting associations, and people who provide sign language interpreter training, so training institutions. And what we asked were things like, within your country, is legal interpreting recognised as a specialism? Is there special training available? Can interpreters go on studies and become a qualified legal interpreter? We also asked about when someone was in a police setting or a court setting, what kind of criteria did they have to meet before they could even work in these settings? So we asked that for all the countries in Europe, collected all that information. as I said, these are more specific ones we asked. We asked about training, what training is available, whether there's a course available, or one-off workshops, or the extent of training was available in different countries. We were also interested in whether there was a specific code of ethics or code of practice pertaining to legal interpreting, or whether there was just a general one for all interpreting sectors. So this is a very brief summary of what we found. I'll talk you through this. Within Europe, as you would imagine, the picture is very varied across countries. It wasn't the same at all. Different countries have very different provision, different recognition, different training, qualifications, varied hugely. But what was interesting was that within most countries, what we found was that it was often an agency who was responsible for providing interpreters to the courts or police or prison settings. So often it's an agency, Sign Language Interpreting Association or an agency. And I know you know that in Scotland it's been global who's got the contract for that, so that they cover spoken language and sign language interpreters, so they do all the bookings for court and police jobs. So that was interesting to see that in most countries in Europe it was still within an agency. So, but it was actually sign language specific. So the agencies were sign language specific across Europe who booked interpreters for legal sessions. We asked people where most often sign language interpreters work. First of all, they said court settings, and then secondly was police. We also had responses about working in solicitor settings, working in a tribunal as well, but mostly was court and police settings. We asked about what qualifications interpreters needed, and these varied hugely. Some countries said interpreters must be experienced, they must have worked for a certain number of years, they must have specific qualifications, have been to training. Unfortunately, that wasn't many countries. Most said they were qualified, they could work in legal settings. That qualified them to work in court because there was such demand for interpreters generally that even more were needed to work in legal settings. So there wasn't consistency at all about the standards needed to work in legal settings. I can see people's faces are going, oh, really? Yeah, and I had the same reaction when I read those results, and you realise that, you know, this from knowledge research, and you look at what Graham looked at 20 years ago, yes, something's improved, but unfortunately things are still very much the same. What we did get was a lot of people said that there wasn't any specific legal training available within sign language interpreting. It was very ad hoc provision. There was maybe things that people would learn on the job. They would have to learn in practice, you know, from their colleagues. There wasn't much formal training available. Many of them said that there weren't any monitoring procedures in place. So an agency would send someone to work there, but only check that they were qualified and didn't check their actual practice within the courtroom. They would just kind of hope that they were okay, and if there was no complaints, they would take that straight. But there was no monitoring or system to check quality. There was no quality control whatsoever of interpreters within the court. So they weren't able to go back and say, I'm not sure. They were there on their own within these settings. So you can see how there are risks associated with that as well, with quality. A lot of respondents said that there were workshops available, so ad hoc CPD events and short courses, no kind of prolonged things. But they did tend to focus mostly on legal terminology. You know, what's the sign for? How do you sign this, or what's the translation for that? And I completely agree that that's useful, but we all know there's a lot more to working in legal settings than just the vocabulary. There's much more to do with dynamics and, you know, interview procedures, for example. But most of the training are actually focused on simply terminology and vocabulary. At the moment, in America, we see more of a push within research to look at interpreters specialising in legal interpreting, and they would actually work only in legal interpreting settings. They would say that they're a specialist legal interpreter, and there seems to be enough work for them to be able to work only in legal settings, whereas in Europe, we're not finding there's enough work in legal settings for interpreters to only do that. So interpreters still have to work across a range of settings, including legal. So the survey was good at giving us an idea of what was going on in Scotland, the UK, and also how we compared Europe-wide for provision, qualifications and training. In some areas we were ahead, in other areas Europe was much further ahead. If you want to read about this in more depth, then let me know and I can share that information with you. Obviously I'm just going through a summary at the moment, but there is more information if you're interested. Okay, now we'll talk about this analysis.
Okay, so I'll give you some information now about the two main avenues of the research. So the first is looking at police interviews that have interpreters present. So in the spoken language area, when we think we're training interpreters, it's all, we understand it's very useful to look at sample videos that have spoken interpretations going on, so that you look at how the dynamic is, what goes on in a police setting, and identify risks, concerns, and this can be used for further training and improvements. But there was really no regard given specifically to sign language interpreters working in this area. Now we did manage to find one video, just one, and we do need more, but luckily we can get the ball rolling and start to analyze one. So we have one police interview with authentic data for us to analyze, and it is useful for us because you can really observe the interpreter's strategies and consider how they rendered different interpretations, how they explained different concepts or pieces of terminology. And this is important because when you go to court, of course, people are held very much to their accounts. So if there are any misinterpretations, then people can be perceived to be dishonest or lying in court. So it's very important that things are done right from the very beginning, from the first second of the police interview. So this sort of evidence hasn't been used, or this sort of resource hasn't ever been used in any training yet. That's one thing that became apart. And in interviewing interpreters, one interpreter said, on being asked, how do you prepare, how do you train yourself to work in police interview settings? And they said, well, there's no course available, so I used to just go to court and watch general court proceedings and learn from what was going on their side. I could then transpose it to what was going on in the police interview. So that's a very smart strategy because there's nothing available at that early stage, but we wanted to really explore what's going on in the police interview. That's why we're analysing this one interview and hoping that it will feed into the training resources that we produce.
Just to add to that, Rob, I think what's really important is to let everybody know that obviously this video is a real police interview with a deaf person who's been arrested. And so the deaf person is a suspect, and the sign language interpreter brought in, and they are having an interview from the police. So we've been given this video with permission to research it and do a specific analysis of it. And that's quite rare. So one person from this department has been in touch with the police and has had various spoken language interpretations available on video of all different languages, but we haven't had anyone in ESL. So this was the first one that people said, oh, you can get ESL, I want that. But yes, we do, because it's so difficult to get hold of. I mean, there's a lot of mock situations and things like that that are simulated are useful, but it's ultimately the best to have authentic data or real police interview to analyse, and then that can inform training. So we've had permission from the police to do that.
But of course, we aim to get a lot more authentic data, which will enrich the project even further. Jemina explained earlier on that we have done interviews and focus groups with police, deaf people, and with interpreters. And that's very useful because when you think about training one group, you have to think about the issues that affect all stakeholders in this and really glean as much from their experiences as possible. So we thought it would be useful just to summarise the main points that came out of these focus, 3 different focus groups. So on this slide here is the deaf sign language users focus group, and what we seem to see from the discussions was that deaf people really didn't feel that they were getting an equal experience, that they were getting equal access to the law. There were no good news stories, no good practice anecdotes to share, and I'm asking them why this was the case. And many of the people said that, well, police just simply don't have any deaf awareness. They're not aware of our needs. They're not aware of our language needs. They don't think how they can adjust things to suit us. And I mean, there have been some examples of filming interviews as good practice, but that seems not to have been happening in deaf people's real experiences. And they also express a lack of confidence in the skill levels of interpreters working in this area, and stated that need for further training, because of course in the UK there isn't any focused legal interpreter training available. And because when we asked them if they were aware of their rights, there seemed to be a very mixed response. Not everybody in the focus group had a clear and strong understanding of their rights. They certainly weren't aware of the EU directive that we mentioned earlier on in this presentation. The second focus group was the interpreters. And we were looking at skills and experiences of interpreters working in court legal setting, and that's been very much the focus up to now. We got very different feedback than we did from the deaf people. The interpreters felt that things had improved a little bit, slightly over the years, and moving on. Certainly not that we were at a place where everything was 100% perfect, but they felt that if the police person had the right attitude and the right flexibility to deal with the situation, then they were able to negotiate and improve the access. But it was very dependent on the individual police officer that was involved. The interpreters did say that many police were not aware of best practice in terms of filming sign language interviews and making sure that you get qualified interpreters, those sorts of things. The interpreters' feedback also said that they regretted not having enough training, no way that they could certify or accredit themselves to be a legal interpreter. And in America, there's not enough training opportunities to allow for legal interpreters to work the way that they want. And we've seen very much the same thing happening here in Britain. Interpreters working sometimes in police settings with no training at all. The interpreters also talked about the legal language that police officers intend to use and the difficulty and the inherent risks therein of interpreting those and rendering them into sign language. Now, moving on to the third group of the focus groups that we've done. So, around the UK, both in Scotland and in England, we move on to the police. And in asking their experiences of dealing with interpreters and deaf people and how things went when they've interviewed them, what they've known. I mean, there were some experiences from the police officers, some of them who had met deaf people and been through this process, some who had no experience of meeting deaf people, and also some police officers who were level 6 qualified in sign language. So, a police officer who actually were able to interview who is fluent in sign language, but who wouldn't interpret, who would never interpret in court or police, but there's a very clear, obviously, understanding of what it is to be an interpreter from, and that is and they're a police officer themselves. So the police focus groups and interviews, they basically felt that they had they had more experience and knowledge about how to work with interpreters because they'd experienced interpreters with the other community language groups. And with the higher mobility of people in today's world, we see different language groups, different populations popping up all over the place. So they describe that general experience. They also spoke of how much they value the national framework. And the reason for that is that as a police officer, they have no idea of the efficacy or the qualification or the skills of an interpreter. So they felt comfortable then being able to ask one agency that the responsibility with the agency, that they would have the knowledge and the experience to provide a trained interpreter. So they expressed a value in that national framework from their perspective. Now, when we told them that there was no specific legal interpreting for interpreters, they were quite shocked. They were under the impression that the Attorney General's Department provided vast streams of training to interpreters, and they were a little bit surprised to be disabused of that notion. They didn't talk about guidelines. I mean, there are some guidelines and advice for police officers on how to use interpreters, and procedures and practices to follow. So they did say that some of them were, some of those resources were online, but they also talked about the lack of interpreters on the ground, the fact that there weren't enough interpreters in the community to meet the needs as they presented themselves. The next point, I don't know if you're aware of, it refers to a job title called Police Link Officer for the Deaf. Well, PLOD, of course, for short. A very interesting concept. That would have a very positive influence, because you would think, a person who's aware of, a deaf police person who's aware of the cultural and linguistic needs of deaf people, aware of the dynamics of the interpreting situation, can certainly assist and advise other police officers who've never interviewed and never come across a deaf person before. So that was a useful position, a useful part of the puzzle, if you like, to assist police officers who don't have experience in dealing with deaf people. Now, when we asked them if it was worth getting training on sign language, deaf culture, all those sorts of things, the officers often said, well, we don't have time to do that. I mean, how often do I meet a deaf person? Was their attitude. They liked the link officer idea, where one person within the force is given the responsibility, if you like. So it's very interesting to see it from the police point of view. If you look at the Ministry of Justice website, you can see that there are guidelines on providing qualified interpreters, when interviewing people at the police station. There is legislation in place. So some of the preliminary results from the focus groups showed issues such as there certainly wasn't enough in-depth legal training. Some interpreters have received legal training. Some police forces have policies and guidelines in place, but others don't. I think it's been said before, it's a very, very varied picture that we're receiving from around the country when it comes to provision. Now, I don't know if you've seen Stephanie's video on YouTube yet about hate crime, which is a really great example of some of the online information and resources that are cropping up in this area. I think in Leicester and a couple of other police forces in the south of England, they've been putting out online resources on their own websites. But they're not easy to navigate, and they're piecemeal and ad hoc and crop up in different places on the website. And up here, lastly, is another interesting example where we're now seeing deaf professionals becoming qualified and working more within the legal system, which is surely a good thing.
So what was really interesting is when you compare the research that was done in the UK 20 years ago and what the findings were then to what we found now as a state of play, some things we can see a vast improvement. There's far more criteria involved, there's guidelines, there's policies that are there. Police officers are more aware, more experienced. So those types of things have improved in the last 20 years. However, interpreter training is available, interpreters can now become qualified through many more means than they could 20 years ago. So you would expect qualified interpreters, because in 20 years ago there wasn't a lot of qualified interpreters, so they didn't have the availability, whereas now they have the course available, which should be. So you also see more deaf professionals working within the legal system, we have much more activism and lobbying on the part of the deaf community. But unfortunately, what we see is that the issues are still the same. So while the state of play has changed, many of the issues are still being echoed. There was especially talking in Scotland. We've got Stephanie here tonight, and we're picking on you, that's a shame, Stephanie. She's got a lot of work on her plate to be a police officer who's able to use sign, works with the EDA, the British Deaf Association, and the deaf community to develop information in the ESL that they need. So again, as Leo said, 20 years ago, Scotland was leading the way. It seems like, again, we're still doing that. We have a lot of posters who are really ahead of the game compared to the rest of the UK. So what we saw from this project was that there's still a long way to go. There's more work to be done. So some of the conclusions that we saw, comparing across Europe, sign language interpreting and spoken language interpreting are very similar within the legal settings. They're the same issues. They need more training, there's more improvements needed. And I think that can be a good thing as well. It doesn't mean spoken language way ahead, sign language behind. We're very much on par with our colleagues in spoken language interpreting areas. What improvements we do see across Europe is that there's much more things set up and in place structurally to give us the evidence to say we need to campaign more on this community these issues. Well, as many of us know, what's important is that there is a shared understanding of the deaf community and their needs as a cultural and a linguistic minority, and to move away from the disability medical model of patronising accents. And for the legal community to recognise sign language as a language and as an interpretation that needs qualifications and qualified interpreters working in that area. So what's next for a project? Well, some of our aims are, should I say names? No? Rose, Stephanie Rose. So we've been talking about further work and Rob's been involved as well to try and work together to create almost a pilot training session. So we'll have a joint session. So as Rob said, there's no point us training all the police officers who then say, well, that's great, then work in a different area, or they forget because they don't need deaf people enough. If we had a resource that was available, it would be really useful for people. So we're working with Stephanie to see how we can map that with interpreters and police officers to create a joint training resource that would be beneficial for police officers working with interpreters and interpreters working with police officers. So that's at the early stage, and we're looking at that. We've agreed in principle to create something, how that's going to develop and what that looks like. We're hoping to look at more from the 6th of November. Hopefully we'll more to tell you then later. So we'll be keeping that date, the 6th of November, in your diary. We'll have another event talking about what we've come up with. On the 7th of November, we have another event here. It's a symposium looking at legal interpreting research methods. So how do you do research in this area? Because we know there's not enough research within legal interpreting, we need more research on that. So the 7th of November will focus on research. And we're hoping to have another event looking at deaf interpreters in the legal system. So training and providing resources for deaf relay interpreters who may work in court or even work in police. Now that would be if there's a foreign deaf person who comes, maybe someone with a learning difficulty or language fluency, that a deaf relay interpreter would be brought in. Because I think we have very few in Scotland, there's very few who are qualified and trained. So that's something again we're going to talk with SASLI, we have representatives here tonight, to work with SASLI on developing that training. As they're able to have the deaf interpreters network, and again working with them, we're going to provide some kind of training for deaf interpreters working specifically within these settings. So that's training planned for the next year. Now here we have the paper. Yes, we have a sheet of paper here. So this, I'd like to let you know if you're interested in any of these events, or if you want to be involved in research, or you would just like some more information, you want to be kept up to date with what's going on. I don't want to presume just because you come tonight that you want continued information, and I don't want to bombard with emails that you're not interested in. So if you are interested in receiving continued information about the project, please put your name and email address down, and we will be in touch. If you're interpreters yourselves who want to be involved in training, or if you're interested just for information, so please put your name down before So I think that's it for me. So I'm open to questions or any comments you would like to make, any ideas, any information you'd like to share, and if you can just come up to the front, please. And we'll go for, well, we have live stream available as well, so we'll stop live streaming in 5 minutes, please, and then we'll continue on in the room. So first up, Joe.
My name is Joe Kelhofer. I'm director of AC2.com, and also Sign Live, which is a remote interpreting service. A really interesting presentation for the watch this evening. I'd like to add something about the issue of deaf interpreters, because I have a qualification as a deaf interpreter, but don't really work very much, I'm very much focused on my other work. So it's very, it's useful for me to get the qualification despite the fact that I don't work that much. But looking at the area of deaf interpreters and translators, there's a lot of discussion about in the police interview setting, having an interpreter, bringing in a deaf interpreter to make sure that the deaf person really receives the information accurately. There's a couple of reasons for that. As you said before, you might come from a foreign country and only just learn British Sign Language. You might be very, very nervous in the situation, obviously. And so having a deaf person go in, I think it's worthwhile considering the full benefits of bringing in deaf interpreters, particularly in police interview settings.
Yes, Joe, and that's one reason I think what's really important. Within police settings, as you said, it's a very high risk area. Could be that someone's just very nervous if they're reporting a crime. So it's important that we have the appropriately trained professionals to be brought in. It's not just bringing in someone just because they're deaf, but someone who has got those qualifications and is aware of the legal setting. So that training would be our first step to having more trained and qualified professionals who could work in that area. It could be only a few people, but that training would be really beneficial for those areas. So thanks for your comment. Anyone else?
Hello, my name is John Generally, I'm from Glasgow. I used to be a social worker, working mainly with children, and as a deaf reading interpreter. At that time, no training. There's very few deaf interpreters around Scotland, and you were saying that you were hoping in the future that you'd be able to give opportunity for training of deaf interpreters. Now, is that anybody who has an interest, or do they already have to be qualified, like Joe said that he is? I mean, how are you going to identify suitable people? I mean, because the skills that are required for a reading interpreter, without training and qualification, I mean, there is a problem because the opportunities aren't out there. But when you think about police interviews in court settings, a lot of these deaf people who find themselves there have mental health issues, have reduced capacity. They need a professional there that can identify with them, can identify with lived experience, can really focus on their needs and have the attributes and the skills so that things go as well as they can. And we need to be working and encouraging deaf people, giving them the opportunity and the confidence to train as deaf interpreters.
Absolutely, I think that's a great point, John. And one of the aims of that training is to open it up to people who are deaf themselves and are perhaps interested in training in this area. So that's to be decided as what criteria for people. So it's not just anybody, as we say, we don't say just anybody can go teach sign language, so it's the same with interpreting. But as you say, there's probably a lot of untapped skill out there. People who maybe would like to get qualified, but the qualifications aren't available for them to study. So I think this training would be the first step, maybe to identify people who have the potential. Maybe some are already in that job, maybe some are interested in making the first steps into that. But that's something I'll be working with SASN on, and with yourselves, Deaf Connections and Deaf Actions, to provide training to deaf people who want that qualification, or to be able to identify people when they need a deaf relief. It could be that after that training, we see a real need to work with SASLI and other stakeholders to look at what next. You know, maybe use that experience for the group to say, okay, some people are great, some people maybe aren't ready, they don't have the right skill, maybe need more training, but that would be the first step on the longer training pathway to develop more
Thanks. From Scottish Police? Prison, sorry. Prison Service.
I can apologise, I don't sing, so get help. I would like to think the prison service will take a big step, and we're just wondering if there's any more research done, because we see us part of being the justice family now. And I think what Joe said there about that first police interview being very nervous for somebody, very upsetting, the mental health issues that people were there, with that first time they come to prison. A person doesn't stop becoming a human being just because they come to prison. We need to make sure that we have the right help and support in prisons as well. I think we would say we have talkish support, but we're really interested if there's any research being done in different prisons that Europe are doing as well.
Yes.
Thank you for that question. It's answered in English, so I can direct my response to you. I can actually pass on to you. There's been one study done, a survey of prison officers in the UK, which has been led by some forensic psychologists who work a lot with deaf sign language users. So perhaps afterwards I can make sure I've got your email contact, I can forward you a copy of the paper. But to be honest, the access that deaf people have to prisons is even more under-researched than the access that deaf sign language users have in police contexts. So a little bit of research that's been done is focused on the court, which is why we talked about prisons, about police, but prisons are even less. But in the Equality Before the Law book, there is one chapter that does talk about deaf people's experiences of accessing sign language interpreting or sign language communication in prison. So we can follow that up and provide you with what information there is and see what else we can do.
Okay, hello, I'm John Brownlee. I work for Sign Video. A really interesting presentation on a very important topic. A couple of things. Just wanted to go back to what we were talking about in terms of prison. I mean, it's a double sentence, really. There's a project called Double Negative, to say that really it compares deaf people's experiences in prison and looks at that double punishment of communication isolation. Now, you've talked about police, court, and prisons, but what about the situation in terms of working with lawyers and solicitors in the area of defense or whatever? Because this is where, I mean, very much your defense lawyer, I mean, everything hinges on them in a court case. So, is there any involvement on deaf people's interactions with their lawyers? Thank you. Really good question. Now, Fair Trials International. That's a very useful toolkit that's being created for lawyers, and I was very much focused on spoken language interpreting. But when I got involved in this project, I brought it to everyone's attention to we need to adapt this for deaf people in the sign language environment, because it's a very, very useful resource that's easily adaptable and perfectly suited to purpose, really. There will be a few things that we need to put in. Now I'm a director of EFSli, the Association of Sign Language Interpreters as well, and we've done some work. We asked one of our members, Karen Newby, if she could take these American guidelines for best practice for interpreters in court, And with this research project, we can link in and come up with some best practice guidelines for interpreters in legal settings. So, this is a very useful link between Justisigns and what's going on with Fair Trials International and their advice and information for solicitors. So we're very much working in partnership to deal with those sorts of areas.
Just to add to that before we go on to the next question, I'd like to clarify. Although we'll be doing this project and producing guidelines, we'll also make these available for ASLI, SASLI, efsli. So all the interpreter professional associations, anything we develop will be available publicly for interpreters and practitioners out there in the field. This project, we only look at police interpreting, unfortunately. So we have got a very long to-do list of other things that we are hoping to seek future funding for, to look at other areas such as court and working with lawyers, barristers, as you said. And there's other areas, prison is a huge one. And so there's a lot of other research areas that we recognise in our gaps. But this project, unfortunately, we had limited resources, limited time, and could only look at one area. So our recommendations at the end of this project will be that there are many other areas that still need to be done. Want to respond to that?
I realise that you've had to limit the scope of your project and focus, and that's fair enough. But it's more a case of we've got somebody in Scotland who's a qualified lawyer practicing for 2 years, but face so many barriers in getting to that final qualification. I mean, and I know that's not particularly the remit of the project, but there is, we have an FY here, but they're facing so many barriers in their experiences.
That's interesting, John, as well. When we see these improvements with deaf people who are working as professionals within the legal settings, and yet, unfortunately, there could be more deaf people that could have been in these barriers weren't in place. There's still other barriers there, not just in these settings, but as you say, for deaf people working as professionals in that setting. That's another project. Any other questions or comments from the team? Mr. Kirby. My name's Ian Carmichael. And I have one positive thing and one negative. I'll start with the positive. I'm from Falkirk, in the Forth Valley area. And I'm really surprised that the police came to our centre and we have a link officer, as you mentioned. And they wanted to help the deaf community if there was any issues to make sure they were paid for rights. And that was really positive. So we did have an officer who would come quite regularly, used to come every month to the sensory centre in Falkirk. Now the negative point, what I'd like to see in the police settings, especially with the deaf community, is when you see a lot of deaf people who are listening to they can't go, excuse me anymore. So these improvements, we have to let it go, but still have to let deaf people go.
Back to the police issue, I think it's very, when you think of bringing in an interpreter, that obviously, helps give deaf person their access rights. A statement's then taken, or it translated, or translated to English, and the deaf person then is signed, but it's unsure whether, if they can't read it, if that actually what they actually said. And of course, we find a situation where the deaf person ends up in court, and the court is insisting that he said certain things, but it wasn't. It was in the interpretation. So, what are the project's thoughts about that sort of issue? That's a good question. I talked to the interpreters in the focus group about that because, say if you take the Spanish-English example, just checking this, let me see if I get this right. Second is watching you with an eagle eye, so I'm just going to make sure that I get this right. If I'm Spanish and I get arrested here, the police will bring an interpreter in and conduct the interview. Then the statement will be then translated back into Spanish, back translated into Spanish, and then that's what they sign. So they sign a Spanish version, which is then translated into English to the court. That's what I was told. That was what the process was. Never mind. But in terms of how you do this, how you operationalize it, the police person has to sit with the interpreter. It has to be the same interpreter. But when you get, so it's very different between spoken and sign language situations. So with the sign language situation, when you're being interviewed, the interpreters work between Spanish and English. They go away, they construct the Spanish version of the statement, which is correct, and then that's what's signed by a person. But that's not something you do with sign language. You can't write it down. There's no version. There's only the English version that the deaf person can sign. Ideally, they should be able to watch a re-rendering in sign language on video and then sign their assent to that statement, rather than having to physically sign with a pen a written statement that doesn't contain their actual words. But what happens in court is that the court holds up the English document and says, you said this, and then the deaf person is dealing with a different interpreter in court who then re-renders the same English words in another back translation, so you're getting into a Chinese whisper situation whereby what was said when I was arrested can be very, very different to what's being said to me in court, and the deaf person thinks, well, I never said that.
Hello, just introduce myself. I'm the Stephanie that we referred to a couple of times this evening. I work for Police Scotland in the National Safety Communities Department and Interesource, looking at access to police services and trying to look how we can improve things. Just to clarify in relation to statements, if you are a witness or a victim of a crime and we're taking a statement from you, then we would record that in English using an ESL interpreter. So the interpreter will interpret your version of events, but it will be their interpretation of what you're saying to them. Okay. At the end of the statement, we should read that back, but it will be the same interpreter interpreting back what you're reading. And then you should agree that that's what you signed, and then it should be signed. What people are hoping now and should be doing is filming and recording on camera evidence or a statement given in sign language. So if there is issues when we come to court, we can look back at that. That's not across the board. We're trying to make sure we standardise the procedures across Scotland. So it might not happen every time, but that's the thing that we're looking at just now in regards to accessing your services. When you go to court, you're perfectly right. You can have an interpreter who's interpreted your signing one way, and a different interpreter will slightly interpret it a different way. So what's been told to me in English, and I've written down in English, when it's interpreted back by a different interpreter, could be something totally different. So yes, I totally agree it's a problem. And I'm trying to learn and trying to get to know as many people as possible to understand what problems we do have. And that's something that, to be honest with you, until you just mentioned it, it makes complete sense, but I haven't completely and utterly considered it as some of the things I'm looking at.
So that's why it's really helpful that I'm here tonight to make sure that we're picking up. And that's why it's so important we're working with the Justisigns team to make sure that we are improving our services. So hopefully that clarifies in relation to statements. And it will be the same with an interview. It will be the exact same with an interview. Questions are asked in English and interpreted by a EULITA interpreter. Relayed back and given to us in English again. So it's that interpreter's version of how they've read your sign. I hope that clarifies things. I'm going to run before I ask any more questions.
It's interesting to hear what you have to say, Stephanie, and to listen to those comments. You know, I mean, I still very much have in my mind, you know, well, really emblazoned in my mind, and from the research project back then, nearly 20 years ago, when I was watching the murder trial and proceedings, I remember one lawyer saying in court, "Will you accept from me that on the 5th of May you said, etc., etc." And that was the police setting. So the dead person, you think about it from their perspective, they're watching an interpreter in court rendering a second translation, if you like. They're listening to the English that's being read by the barrister in court. But they're reading a statement that's written in English, in black and white, that was written by a police officer, based on an interpretation from a different interpreter, based on what the dead person actually said. Yeah? So there's 5 links in this Chinese whispers situation. But videoing the interview at the very beginning jumps all of those links. Here it is, not black and white, in full glory Technicolor, exactly what you signed on the day. So why we don't record them, it beggars belief, because we were saying it 20 years ago, and we haven't seen an awful lot of traction in that area. Also, I think that it gives a clear rationale for really raising everyone's awareness of it. The fact that what happens in the police station has an incredible bearing on what transpires in court, and that court proceedings are fundamentally based on what transpired in the police setting. And if the procedures aren't right at the very beginning, at that point in the police station, then there's going to be so many issues that flow through and end up manifesting in the courtroom. So I think, you know, appropriate procedures are very well, but the court's got to know what it's doing. They've got to understand that this is a less than perfect situation, that reading black and white statements written in English doesn't really suffice. So it's awareness on, you know, on both sides of that equation. And I think, you know, to add to that point is that, you know, if the dead person finds themselves in court, you know, it's fair that they watch their own statement, so that in preparation, this is what hearing people do, they revise and go over their statements before they appear in court. So it would be a really good resource for a dead person.
As the buzz sort of fits. So do we have one last comment? I see 2 hands. Okay, so we'll get you to the last 2 who would like to come up, and then we'll bring things to a close and go back out to finish the line with this group.
I just wanted to ask Stephanie, what would happen if there was more awareness out there and the dead person was arrested, insisted on being filmed? What would happen?
Use my colleague from the Trade Office, leading Napier. Basically, I would say that the advice I would give if somebody contacted me and asked me that is really make sure that person can be videoed. If that's a question that's been asked of me, if somebody phoned my office, which happens on a daily basis, ask advice in relation to the situation, in particular, in relation to anybody who used to be EFSL and 24 national, then I would be making sure that we made that happen somehow. Karen, I'm looking at you, you're nodding, luckily, she's agreeing with me. But yeah, we would make sure that that would happen in some cases.
Karen, do you want to clarify that?
Hi, my name is Karen Kennedy. I work for the Crown Office for Property Fiscal Service in the Policy Division. I don't think it's ever happened that someone has asked us to play a video in court of someone being interviewed using their sign language. But I think for pragmatic purposes, it would be allowed to happen. So I think if the police can provide video, then the court, with the permission of the sheriff, will be able to play the video. I don't think the Crown would have any objection to that happening at all, for fairness to either the accused or a witness who was being interviewed. If there was any dubiety about the statement that was being put to the witness or to the accused, so that would not be a problem at all. Perhaps what we need to do is firm up our processes, that the interview is actually videoed, and that if need be, it can be shown in court if there's an issue with the statement. Can I say though that for any language, whether it's BSL or spoken, there's always the opportunity for the person giving evidence to challenge what's in the statement. So they may quite easily change what they say in court from when they gave the statement, which could be 12, 18 or 24 months previously. So it wouldn't be just the BSL people who would be changing what they say in court. That can happen to anyone as well. So it depends on whether it's the defence or whether it's the Crown that are interviewing you, and whether you are their witness or the opposition witness. So whether you're challenged in an aggressive manner or in a supportive manner, shall we say, about what you said, what's been in your statement, and what you're now prepared to say in court. And can I just say this has been a fantastic event, and we would love to work with you about the legal setting to improve the experience of BSL users in the justice system as a whole. And while I have the floor, I'm really a trainer, but I work in policy division. I don't know if you're aware of a group called WIDGET, the Working Group on Interpreting and Translating. This is a cross-justice group that operates in Scotland, where the police are members, so is the prison service, so is the Crown, so is the Law Society, the Scottish Legal Aid Board, and the judiciary as well. Where it's our job to ensure that everyone has access to the criminal justice system with an interpreting and translation focus. So we do actually organise training, and we did have a training event last September with SASLI in a court setting to improve the experience, or to improve awareness both for our lawyers, Crown and defence, and for interpreters working in that arena, so that everybody gets a better service. And the whole raison d'etre is to get the best evidence from the person being interviewed, whether they be the witness or the accused. We'd be delighted to run more events like that, to be honest, and have them videoed when someone else is paying for it, so that they can be used as a resource rather than having to rerun events. It would be fantastic if they were just captured and then used for future audiences.
It's still filming. We got this
video. I think this doesn't cost us too much money. Thank you.
So Karen said, you know, if any of you are arrested for speaking, Peter Carmichael, then you say, no, yeah, Karen said, people said, but thank you, Karen, for your comments. That's really great to have, and we'll definitely keep in touch. I hope that tonight can be the start of some very productive relationship with Scotland, with Vince from the prison service, and yourself, Karen, from the Crown Office as well. To have the three of you representing the legal entities is fantastic. I think we can all learn from the information you've brought tonight. And remember, we have the sign-up sheet, so if you want more information, to keep in touch in future, please put your name down. I don't want to bother you if you've had a rough and fine, don't put your name down. But thank you everyone for coming tonight. Thank you for your time and your questions, your comments. Please do keep in touch. We have more nibbles and wine. Oh, wait, one more comment. Sorry, I forgot about you. One more. My name is Donald Richardson, and I've been teaching BSL for over 30 years. And there was one time I was based in Aberdeen and I was teaching BSL at Aberdeen College. I had a social worker approach me who wanted to discuss an issue. And the SPS, Scottish Prison Service, that time were based in Peterhead. And they were very keen on interested in BSL teaching. So I explained to them about what different levels of BSL were available and the budget. And I had to go to their venue, and it was actually that they had a deaf prisoner from England who'd come up. Obviously, I'm not able to give you the name. Prisoners from Hull, from England, who'd come up. So quite a way to go to Peterhead, and then go to Peterhead Prison. And Peterhead Prison had a very high percentage of prisoners who were actually in prison for sex offences and other serious crimes in the corner of Scotland. So I actually met them, the deaf prisoner, and I tried to sign with them and understand that, and they just didn't understand me. And I would try using clear speech with them, and they weren't understanding me at all. And they seemed to have very limited access to communication, and the environment was very difficult for them because they weren't able to communicate with anybody. So that was an experience I had. But I'd also been involved in teaching the prison officers level 1. But what was difficult was some of them had different shifts time, people who were ill, people like it's very difficult for people to commit to classes. But 6 of them were able to pass BSL level 1 qualification. I don't know what happened to that deaf person, but I think that any kind of further collaboration with SPS and Scottish Police Service within this project would be absolutely valuable. My question would be, if I see someone who, if I know someone who's maybe involved in legal settings or has trouble with the police or with SPS, should I inform yourselves to be able to support them or provide that kind of collaborative work? I think it's important because that connection, that people have that supportive team around them, such as the Crown Office, SPS, and Scottish Police Service. So that's my question. That's a good question, and I don't want to say, yes, get in touch with us because we're really a university who are involved in research, and the priority is the partnership and working with the police and the prison service and the Crown Office. But I would say if there is an incident and you don't know who to contact, then if you got in touch with us, we would signpost you to someone like Stephanie, and we'd be able to pass you on to the best person in that service. So at the moment, you can contact Stephanie, who's a sign language user, or the next appropriate person for that. So we wouldn't necessarily deal with it, but we could certainly point you to whoever would be able to help you with that. But you're right, I think that's a concern, is that someone's passed to the right person who can help in that situation. So I'm sorry, we don't have any more time for comments. No.
To me, the prison service.
Or Vince is saying you can contact him. If it's a prison service, contact Vince. He's the person's contact. Okay, so coming to the end now, thank you everyone again. Thanks for your attendance, your time, all your questions, comments, and your attention. We really benefited from hearing your different perspectives and seeing you all tonight. I hope you enjoyed it. And we don't have to leave the building, but we can spend a little bit of time having wine and nibbles before we shift everyone in the room.